Right.
easiest for me to digest you sharing
So the thing about the attachment is this, is that in Buddhism we are only concerned when that attachment gets out of hand, left unchecked, and you can't sleep, you can't eat, of clinical concern. Anything of clinical concern, Buddhism is also concerned with that. When it's disrupting your functionality as a human, normally, then that's when, yeah, you do have goals, but the attachment is way too much. It's to the extreme point. Okay. So there are good attachments and there are unwise attachments. And you have to use your intelligence and realize what is wise attachment and what is unwise attachment, and what is it that is really disruptive right now in your life in regards to it. Now, this test thing, I think that you're really beating yourself up over it. You know what I mean? I think that you're really, because quite frankly, you want to resolve majority of the anxiety regarding it. And because you're dealing with some stuff right now, it would be best to deal with the spirituality part before we go into testing, because we already have an existent of high stress and anxiety when it comes to testing anyways. You know what I mean? So jumping into just wanting to do so many things all at once is not a good thing. And it was the same thing when I went and took my certification up at the Supreme Court. So many things was going at once, and again, my own anxiety when it came to it. So I like barely passed, just like on the edge, just like passes like on the edge, just like the rest of us, you know. And I tried the best I could. So again, I think that pass or fail, who really cares? Who really cares? If you approach it with that attitude, you wouldn't beat yourself up. You just be like, oh well, whatever. It is what it is. And there's always another opportunity the next time around to do it more intelligently and more wisely.
Yeah.
And that's what I emphasize in my approach when we approach any goals and endeavors.
So I think like attachment and putting a lot of pressure on myself, both of those things are like fundamentally parts of who I am. So this test is pushing up against things that I don't feel proud of, that are who I am as of this point, right? These are also things why I'm trying to pursue a deeper spiritual journey, because it's not just this test, right? It's other things that I'll put major pressure on myself, and that I'll have a hard time juggling and beat myself up. It's like, I know that I'm not perfect. I don't attempt to be perfect. But when I feel disappointed in myself, where I can't like blame something, then it feels like an even larger disappointment. I know that coming to attachment, but like, I'm just saying that this is coming up at like an early part of me helping you understand who I am, and also why I'm pursuing like understanding Buddhism and practicing meditation, because these things really like come up all the time for me.
The creating unnecessary pressure, unnecessary, extra, being extra for no reason. Aren't we humans silly when we do that? If you were a neurosurgeon, it would be a different story. Yes, pressure is necessary because you have to really, you have one life, one brain, and one mistake could be that detrimental. But this stuff right here, no, silly. You have to look at that, how silly it is. If you're a police officer, yes. If you're a police officer conducting a traffic stop, yes, heightened alert, awareness, and pressure is necessary for your survival. If you were a doctor, yes, but not in instances like this unnecessary. And what is unnecessary, we have to let go and quickly, or else by the time you reach 45 years old or 50 years old, you would look 110 years old because a lot of things are unnecessary, extra. In Buddhism, we let so many things go for the sake of our peace. What is we only need to recalibrate always what it is that deserves our attention and priority, and what evidence we use to justify that attention and priority in work, life, balance, occupation. I recognize maybe it is the class A type personality that you have, you know, perfectionistic uh, nature, style, disposition that you have, and it's a good thing, you know, having these types of things. But we have to realize when it gets out of hand and out of control. You shouldn't be that stressed. You should be enjoying life. You should be enjoying the journey of life rather than always, because it becomes a habit. Everything becomes high stress, everything becomes high priority, everything becomes high pressure for no apparent reason. It can be like going out, meeting with friends, and people are look agitated all the time. I can't find my purse. I gotta have the, lipstick gotta be the right color, and a lot of things that just we in the West, we humans in the West tend to just be a little too extra sometimes and not catching the fact that we're being too extra for no apparent good reason. So perfectionism and just that type of caliber is got to tone it down a little bit. It's not that deep, it's not that serious.
So there's some areas where I'm able to do it. I think when I do express myself artistically, like when I perform as a dancer, like I'm not type A about that. Actually, um, I studied ballet for several years, and then when I stopped, it was because I realized it wasn't in tune with who I am artistically. Ballet is like very like structured.
Hmm.
It, you're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong, and if you're doing it wrong, you need to figure out down to the T of why you're doing it wrong, and that isn't a style that I do anymore because it's too much in here. And for me, art and expression needs to be like totally about who you are at the core rather than in your head. So it's really around my profession. And I mean, even if I'm working in a situation where I'm not doing exactly what I think I am professionally, but like in a professional situation, yeah, that's where the details come out, and it's like overwhelming detail orientation that I'm hyper focused on. So the tools is what I think I need more of your guidance for, is because logically I can say to myself, I am putting too much pressure on myself. I am creating this suffering. I'm feeding the suffering by ruminating, by, laying there in bed and not sleeping. Like I'm doing that. So although I can think of it logically, I don't have a tool to truly like interrupt that.
Hmm. Do you know why? What is the root cause of this being so critical? The root cause of it.
Ego? I don't know.
Was anyone in your family, like a dad or a mom, that was highly critical or in position of leadership, where they exhibited, strict expectations?
No, actually, but I see where you're going, and I think it's the opposite of what I grew up with. I had to create
Mm.
that rigidness for myself
Uh-huh.
because there wasn't enough of that growing up, that it was like I just went and did the total opposite. There was so much dysfunction and disorganization that I switched to be rigid type A because that's what helped me feel like I was the holding
Mm.
for myself. because I didn't receive that.
Hmm. So it's about control.
Yeah.
Back to the control thing again, huh?
Hmm.
And the fear of lack of control.
That's scary when I get into a scary place when I'm like, I feel I don't have control of something, like the test.
Hmm. What are the instances where there was a lack of control and you freak out? Just gonna grab
I
a
guess like,
lens wipe here real quick.
sure. I guess I always feel like a lack of control with people, relationships.
What else?
Mm, I guess sometimes I feel like I can't control myself. Like with these thoughts, I don't feel I can control my anxiety. I don't feel like I can control my depression. So then I end up looking for what I, which is an illusion, but what I feel I can control and get focused on that.
Hmm. How many times have you studied control in regards to other people losing control in their life or witnessed? How many times people have lost control in their life?
It happens all the time.
Have you counseled people in your training? Have you ever
Sure.
noticed? Have you ever noticed when things started to get out of control in their own life, how you feel the need to jump in to save them?
Yeah.
I'm a good supervisory therapist, huh? And do you see how detrimental that could be in your own therapeutic setting if you were to practice on your own under your own license?
Well, it wouldn't be me controlling someone, right? It would be guiding them to them recognizing these warning signs that they're getting to the place of losing control. What I'm feeling coming up for me, like transference versus countertransference, that's my own stuff to deal with. Not necessarily practicing solo bolo, but I mean, where you are going to still look for professional consultation of like what I feel coming up for me with this client or what they pull for me is not necessarily what I'm doing in the room, but I could be feeling that for sure.
But you get 10 clients each day and you compound that feeling. Uh, I couldn't even tell you just the amount of things that I sit here as a monk, doing Buddhist psychotherapy, and there's so many things. I mean, I had students that sit in front of me and ask me, "Where can I get a gun?" I've had students that tell me, I'm going to take a ski mask tonight and I'm going to do it because it's quick money and I can get away with it. I've had so many students come and tell me all sorts of stories, whether they're true, they're not true. The just my mom's this, my mom is that. You see the anger in their face, you see all sorts of things, and it's like when we don't see the true nature of reality of control, it could really those stories can consume us inside out and outside in very easily. You will lose so much sleep, it's not even funny. You would be a burned out therapist within less than 1 year. So I just want you to just reflect on the effects of control, the perception of control, how in life there's really a lot of lack of control in totality, from the car that you drive to things that you think you're in control. And when you just let things be as they are, and only control what you can, and just leave the rest to karma, universe, God, Lord Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Shiva, Vishnu, then we don't really get to attach onto that. And mind you, this comes from a guy that's was trained in the art of control in my profession. You know, and when I was head of a protection company, that was to protect property and life, and to narrow down to a science to the teeth. Protecting a building or protecting people in a building from fire, from mass shooters and stuff like that. And mind you, I took a lot of those principles home, and then I started controlling people in my own life, and then I was like, whoa, 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 this is getting out of control. And then becoming a monk was letting go of a lot of that. You know, as a matter of fact, I used to carry a handgun on me all the time of my profession, and because of what the media painted our world to be unsafe. So I figured if I had a gun on me all the time, matter of fact, it was more than just a gun. It was a gun. It was two magazines. It was cuffs. It was less lethal devices, just to play out scenarios in my head. Um, about the potential likely chance of an attack impending at a bank or at a whatever. It really consumed me. The control thing really consumed me. It took a good minute for me to step back and realize that if it happens, it happens. Oh well. Then you see some of these detectives actually here locally in a metropolitan city that just carry one gun, no mag, no handcuffs, not even a radio. Okay. I looked at this one gal. I looked at this one detective that came in and got coffee not too long ago in the presence of another monk, Varapano, when he visited me. Like her holster wasn't even on right, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like so many things was exposed. Someone can just grab the gun and just run away. Literally could just undo the holster and just run away. The paddle is supposed to be inside the pants, not with just on the belt where everyone can see the concealment modality of the gun. she had no she had no radio. Her phone, I don't even think I saw a phone. So if a shooting went down at that uh, coffee shop, I'm not sure what we are supposed to do and what she's going to do about it. So clearly, she just I don't care. Just she woke up and I'm gonna get my damn coffee, and if crap hits the fan, crap hits the fan. I'll just throw the damn gun at him and run away. I was just like, so um, yeah. So when it, just so again, I just want you to understand that not just you that have this control thing, but a lot of us have the obsession over control. And the obsession part lies in the cognitive behavioral therapy book. Also, that's something to also pay close attention to. And just slowly let go the things that you can incrementally, and slowly you will see things get a little better in your life. Just all the small controls in your life. And the workings of karma is also very comforting in regards to the subject of control, which is we suffer today as a result of our previous karma and current karma, things that we have done in the last lifetime and things that we've done in this lifetime. So therefore, a lot of people have control. Like, yeah, what if the tire car blows up, or how am I going to die? People always obsess the how am I going to die? Like that's one of the worst fears, right? If I sit on this plane, what if one of the engine fails or something like that? So when we look at some of the most prevalent fears of how am I going to die, when am I going to die, these are examples. You don't really have so too much control over that because karma will decide when you're going to die and how you're going to die. And in the scriptures is that let's say you were a really mean person in the last life, then in this lifetime you might just go down in a very mean way, in a very unideal way. Um, the way how you live your life usually determine the way how you die. You live as a peaceful woman, you will die as a peaceful woman. You live your life as a drug dealer, you will die as a drug dealer. So You know, there's only so much that we can control, and the rest really is determined by God, universe, karma, whatever you want to place that word with. Mm. I find it comforting, and you know, I offer my life for close examination under this teaching also, just because of all the good things that I've done growing up, that I gave more and took less, and because of that, I did suffer, but just not long. And that goes from physical ailments to the wisdom teeth being pulled to being homeless 3 times and losing three times in my life. I've lost everything. You know, just the long the the timeline of my suffering was very short. So therefore, when we accept the teachings of karma and accept what I just said to you and to all, to you and to the many millions, it's comforting. You just sleep really good at night versus siding with a lawyer in your head, which is, no, I don't think that's true. I don't think karma is that generous, or I don't think karma is that mean. When we sit there and we start debating on timeless teachings that dates back thousands of years ago, um, without the student observing the workings of karma, you know, just a longitudinal study of karma, it wouldn't do you too well. So it's just it's a little far off on what I'm working with you with, but I just wanted you to consider that in regards to control.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in my progress with you, what would be the accessible tool right now? Like, I don't think it's as simple as like sit and meditate. You know, it's like what you knowing where I'm at, your assessment, what would be my tool right now when I'm getting to that place of I'm seeing it, right? Because I think the awareness is where I'm at. The awareness of what is unhealthy, the awareness of what's creating more suffering, the awareness of what I'm like, this is an unhealthy amount of anxiety centered around control. What is the tool right now that I should be using to manage that?
Well, definitely cut the feeding of the anxiety, and cutting the feeding would need to buy some time, and to replace that with a one pointed concentration meditative technique on the breath, for example. Because if we don't do that, we just continue feeding the anxiety. We just start to reinforce, start to find reasons to be more anxious about, and just throwing it, just feeding it, just pouring fuel onto the fire of anxiety. So therefore, the ancient practice and still empirical practice is the mindfulness of the breath, which is to cut the fuel by come back to the present and realize you are okay in the present moment. And that is to connect with the breath and realize I'm here in the now. It is what it is, and it can't be what it ain't. And what's going to happen is going to happen. And quite frankly, people who worry this much are the ones that should be worrying in third world countries, not in the US. If you think about what is deserving of our worries in the US, there really isn't much to worry about. Because even if I am the governor of whatever state you're in, California, and I said, I'm going to make you homeless, or somebody makes you homeless or whatever, or someone takes you out of your element and not give you food, all the basic necessity according to Maslow hierarchy of needs, you got the American Red Cross helping you, you got nonprofits helping you, got church helping you, and stuff like that. So when you think about how silly some of our, uh, anxiety is, it's like America is like the last place to have anxiety over things that, especially that we think we cannot control. When we look at our basic needs, it's all met. And some of these psychological created hell are just that, psychologically created hell. We also have to trace we also have to trace the root cause of why these created hells are there, and why are we feeding them constantly, and that we're wasting precious time that we could be doing something productive versus continuing to feed this created hell.
I agree. And I think because myself, along with other Americans who, create this suffering like this, it is because if you're thinking about a hierarchy of needs, right, we have the basic needs met. So there is no space or need to worry about those things. So it just kind of goes up. And most simply, you're going up a hierarchy of needs. It's going to be something that, comparatively to a third world country, they'd be like, I wish I could worry about, passing a test. I wish I didn't have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal. Sure. So, I mean, I hear you, and the mind likes to worry. That is what I guess is described as like the monkey brain. The monkey brain likes to worry about things. It doesn't want to be quiet.
So first world problems is what we classify that as, first world problems. And typically when I counsel people in this arena, I ask them, do you have bills to pay? That's the first thing I ask. All right. Bills to pay and too much time on one's hand leads to these ruminating thoughts, uncontrollable, undisciplined mind. The Buddha said three things about the mind: a mind that is well attended to, well disciplined, and brought under control does in fact lead to happiness. So we have to look at why it's not well disciplined, why it is not well attended to, and why it has not been being brought under control by the techniques of meditation. Uh, so sometimes people are bored, literally, so they just sit there and they really ruminate out of boredom or loneliness. One must rule up those factors out also. And usually Buddhism, we bring the meditation on death to shake people like that up, to realize that you're wasting time ruminating on things that are just does not deserve to be ruminating on right now. Study what needs to be studied, practice what needs to be practiced, right? And do what needs to be done. The three things that the Buddha always reminds us. So usually people need to snap back into it. That's why it's good to check in with me all the time, all of my students, is because sometimes I catch them just a little too much time on their hand. No purpose, no meaning in life, bored, or have no bills to pay. Usually leaves one to not take care of one's thoughts when one is alone, and leading one not to be careful what one says when one is around other people. Be careful what you say when you're around other people, and number two, take care of your thoughts when you're alone. What the Buddha says. So that usually typically when you write that all over the place in your room and on the wall, it usually reels you back in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I hit it on the spot?
Sure.
These are the commonalities that I have seen across my sessions, right? Commonalities that I've seen across: preoccupation with oneself, preoccupation with one's performance, preoccupation with one's self-image, the constant preoccupation of me, my, and I, of which later into the intermediate teachings and advanced teachings is the practice of the non-self, the me, the my, the I, the atta, which causes supreme suffering when we are too self-involved and when we are too preoccupied with my past, my life, my suffering, my this, my that, instead of the total opposite, which is when we focus outward onto the well-being of other people, altruism, generosity, give more and take less, then we realize that our suffering so slowly diminishes and we're no longer so preoccupied about the self.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Twitch Boss just recently took his life. In the letters the suicide letters so far being revealed that there were some preoccupations of past mistakes. So therefore, I was supposed to comment on his loss and suicide, raising prevention, and all of that, but then I got knocked out. I actually knocked out, and then you called, so I was like, oh, bright again. Had to take a nap. But just that's why it's so important, the art of letting go. And meditation here reminds us to let go of two things: accumulated negative acquired emotions and accumulated acquired bad habits. Those two things we learn to let go on a day-to-day basis, which will amount to the incremental result of happiness.
Mhm.
But if we're always preoccupied with me, mine, I, day-to-day basis, would only result to despair, accumulated despair, which leads to suicide, of what we see in Mr. Boss's case.
Yeah.
So you let me know how this you know resonates with you. Any clarifications, and you steer the conversation towards the fMRI reports whenever you want to.
Sure. I think I just wanted to bring in a little bit more from the CBT book where I'm at, that you kind of organically went into already, which is I'm in the chapter about deconstructing depression, and I think one of the biggest like things that it hits on is the asking of why, right? Not letting go, wondering why these things happened specifically, and it's like the self. It comes back to the self, right? Like, why did it happen to me? Why me? Why was that said? And so, I mean, I think the things that like have kind of kept me there, or when I feel depressed, is like once again rumination, and rumination actually like I think is strengthening neurons in my brain, like strengthening those synapses of negative thinking, and it, like you said, becomes a habit. um, Little ways that procrastination can come up for me, um, feelings of shame or like hopelessness, thinking that things won't get better. And maybe this is a good point to bring up the MRI scans, but like we had talked about me, I had interest to look up the changes seen in meditators from both expert meditators and people who like are beginners and coming into with a short-term practice, and the changes that can be seen in the brain. And I think especially for people that can feel depressed and may experience states of hopelessness, that seeing a scan where there are marked changes in the brain can bring a sense of hope. Now, what I brought up to you was that in my search, there was more research available just as far as what I'm in. I'm not in like a school database, right? I'm just in Google. It's just in Google. It's it's easier to find like expert meditators that go get in the MRI, and we can see the changes that are what's lighting up in their brain when they're meditating. What are the presumed changes? And there was some with short-term, like people that had participated in mindfulness. I don't know if they were calling it mindfulness programs, but there was like an 8-week study with Harvard. And then I had also found some studies that are saying there's no marked changes with short-term meditation beginners. And that was the case where I was like, the little depressed voice comes up and goes, see, there's no hope. There's no hope for change, because this study wants to refute that there are changes.
So then you have me, right? And so give me one second here. Let me throw some numbers out there. Let's think simple here. Did you read the American Psychological Association's findings?
It was in the NCBH database.
Okay. So let me just give you just a few for now, just to okay. So researchers reviewed more than 200 studies of mindfulness among healthy people and found mindfulness-based therapy effective for reducing stress, anxiety, blah blah blah. That comes from APA, and many more, which we're not going to get into, is because then it will become a dissertation, master's thesis conversation here. Okay, so first and foremost, oh, and by the way, are you aware of the clinical physical benefits of mindfulness meditation?
What I found were the changes in the brain. So, I mean, when you're looking at the frontal lobe, there's, functioning in that part of the brain. But are you talking about other physiological changes?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm aware of the changes in the amygdala, gray matter, and frontal lobe functioning improvement.
All right, so here's the top 10. So when you put benefits of meditation, what did I put? Oh, I put benefits of meditation and mindfulness, whatever. It all comes up the same thing. Same thing. Lowers stress, reduces anxiety, enhances mental health, improves self-awareness, increases concentration and attention span, reduce memory loss, generates empathy and kindness, improves sleeps, hygiene. Those are 10. Uh, and then there's more. The previously I found like 25 to 30 that has been backed up by evidence, empirical studies. Okay. So, anyways, yeah, have you noticed mindfulness magazines in Publix, Walmart, in the magazine section?
There's a magazine section at the store still? No.
No,
No.
because you're not looking for it. I am, and so is many more Americans. When you go on CNN.com, you go to US under United States, because under CNN right in front of me here, you have US world politics business, but when you hit on US, there are on top tabs. And when you where is health? I swear I've seen health. CNN health.
It's
So
the little, see the three lines? It's in there.
okay, so under health you will see mindfulness. Health
It is.
CNN. You see mindfulness there? You see that?
Yeah.
And when you hit mindfulness there, let's bring up that page. Let me go grab a water bottle since I'm just took a Z pack for my bronchitis. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so whatever studies that you have seen, I am giving you empirical examples in modern day life, the effects of it, how important mindfulness is. No matter how many refuting articles that you have found, clearly CNN disagrees with that. CNN disagrees with that, and his eminescence, Chidao, disagrees with it. That's why he's still in robes. And everybody else. And I can sit here and give you all sorts of sources and professors and Yale and Harvard and all of these, prominent universities that have backed up additional studies. And notwithstanding United States studies, there's also international studies too by scholars. And then you have Jack Kornfield and you have all of these mindfulness-based cognitive MBCT practices. So it just goes on forever. Literally, just goes on forever. Um, so, and then with the most recent Big Smile study says that mindfulness meditation effectiveness equivalent to taking Lexapro for anxiety. So that article is also on CNN. Now, one could say, well, CNN is biased and CNN chooses what it wants, and this is all romanticism of the word mindfulness. So then, notwithstanding what I have said so far about the evidences, the overwhelming empirical evidences, let's take all of those away, and it just me and you, monk to student. Okay, this practice has been around 2,566 years ago, whereas back then there were greed, anger, and ignorance. Back then there was killing, stealing, lying, cheating, just the whole 10 yards of human suffering. Then came the historical Gautama Buddha. Historical, meaning we have evidences that he did in fact exist through historical evidence from researchers. And then, so yeah, they're like, okay, great. We established that he was actually human and he taught these things. The unchanging monastic line, right? We continue in the monastic world, dating back 2,566 years ago, still going. So you must ask yourself, how come monks still last this long? It must work. Something's working. Um, if it hadn't worked, and if we did not achieve clarity, peace, tranquility, serenity, then it would not, it wouldn't, we would get out of it. We would get out of it, go back to dating, having a wife, and having a couple kids running around, and go back to lay life. Furthermore, there are members of the monastic who holds MD, PhD degrees, many, in the many. Furthermore, we have celebrities that also ordain as monks. Uh, just from all type of calibers of humans that gone to Thailand and ordained as monks. So, the so hopefully you gather some of these things and ask a lot of hypotheses that I'm telling you here and now as to, interesting. If these refuting evidences, why are these people still going? And mindfulness, the exposure practice, literature, books, and magazines continue to grow more and more each day. Continues to generate billions each day because it works. You have more yoga teachers, you have more mindfulness teachers, you have more mindfulness certifications, and so on and so on. And you just, the establishment of monasteries continuing versus the lack of it. Why is it not dying now? Everything
So
makes sense so far.
it does, but let me bring in something else that I think more so that I'm wanting to bring up is it's not the not believing that this works. It's more of there will be multiple forces in different forms that try to pull us away from higher consciousness. This being one form, right? Where there will be whatever pseudoscience, whatever lies may come up in a study where they're saying just this small example of something, right? Where it's like there's not enough marked changes for short-term mindfulness, practice to make a change in the brain. So this is just one thing out of many things that are constantly bombarding all ages of either developing or maintaining or deepening a spiritual journey. Do you get what I'm saying? That like finding something like this, even if they just get to a really small population of people, to get them away from higher consciousness, that these exist. I mean, there's music, there's shows, there's movies, there's multiple things. But in this instance, I'm using this example as one way, especially for someone who has like depression, may feel swayed by something like this and be like, this touches on someone who already experiences hopelessness and could make an uneducated person feel like, well, why practice meditation if this study is saying, hey, there's not enough significant changes in the brain?
And it is unfortunate people who cannot decipher what is true, best, empirical, will continue to suffer due to ignorance, due to lack of certain intelligent components in the mind and within the brains. It is why the Buddha have said, "Blessed are those who have intelligence, as it will lead them closer to enlightenment, than those who do not have certain intelligence and its components and its neighboring components in order to decipher." There are people are out there, yes, with the severity of their depression, the severity of their mental health illness, that they will attach on to just one minor small study and will abandon the practice altogether, abandoning the practice and representatives of the practice and the philosophy altogether. And anyone who is intelligent and wise realizes that meditation has nothing to do uh, with religion, for example. It is a way of being, a way of being in the present moment. So yeah, I'm very aware of that. And you know what, we teachers, we can't really spend too much time convincing those who don't want to be convinced, or is that clinically difficult to convince. It is something that they have to arrive on their own somewhere down the line. The teacher makes himself available to those who are ready. The teacher makes himself available to those who are ready to embrace new journey and have asked themselves reflectively, wisely, where have I been and how has it worked out for me? And if it has not worked out for you in the old ways, in the old days, then it's time to try something new. And in order to try something new, one must trust the teacher and trust the process, even without empirical evidence, even without scholarly journals. That's what people have been doing over the past 2,566 years, is that they trusted the teacher and trusted the process. And clearly, everything that the work that me and you have done is within the guidelines of my text. All 48 Bibles, that is this thick, literally the size of my head, 45 of them, 84,000. That's a lot. You compare that with the Catholic Bible, one Bible in the Christianity world compared to 45 volumes with commentaries on top of commentaries on top of commentaries. You can literally get like 5 PhDs and still not finish all of it in this lifetime. So, and I've been fortunate in my career, in my 7-year career, that I've had all intelligent students. And there is not one where I looked at a little strange and was like, uh-oh, I don't think this person understands where I'm coming from. And I have said many times, once intelligence is identified, that I tell them, you are closer to enlightenment than you actually think. So that they sit there and think about what they are blessed with versus what's going wrong with them. And just last night I had a 17-year-old student that has borderline personality disorder. It just off the chain, but she was so intelligent, so articulate, calling me from New York, and I started to identify all of these things, and she asked all of these great questions, and I said, if you calm down, I will teach you how to calm down, and you can in fact achieve peace. I don't have any doubts that you can in fact achieve peace. And one should not take that lightly, coming from a very young Buddhist cardinal telling them that. It's like hearing the words of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. If he told you that there's hope for you, there's hope for you. So act on it, damn it. Don't sit there and continue, doing all the foolish things that you have been doing. And that's the message I gave to this student last night. So you are blessed with that same intelligence with a master's degree. So therefore, I have pointed the way. Whether you take the way where I have pointed is all up to you, just like everyone else that I have pointed the way. That's all we do. And they've said that in the books. The Buddhas point the way. I'm not a Buddha. The Buddhas point the way. And it's all up to y'all to just, okay, all right, we gonna try it out. um, uh, oh, those who believe in this practice always, look for books, always reinforces. They would go to monasteries. That would the constant consultation with a authentic, good, experienced teacher. They will look for it. Whatever they're seeking, they will look for it, and they will find what they're looking for, and they will strengthen their practice. They will go, even even notwithstanding Buddhism. Look at the Ten Commandments of what the Lord says about keeping the holy Sabbath day. Why keep the holy Sabbath day? Is because it strengthens all the more stronger your conviction in God. So when one practices mindfulness in this tradition, religion, and philosophy, one has to find their way to come back, find their way to strengthen and reinforce all the more stronger in the practice, all the more stronger in the studies, with the assistance of a teacher. One can actually do it without the assistance of a teacher. One can actually become a Buddha without the assistance of a teacher. We call it private Buddha, Pacceka Buddha, one who achieve enlightenment on oneself based on one's studies, and just keep to oneself. It could happen, but unless you were that skillful, you would come back to a teacher that you have found to be good, authentic, ethical, moral, would not deceive you, would not scam you, would not would not find your weak spots or vulnerability and take advantage of that for his own gain. So that's what the monastic order is charged with, that specific responsibility, you know. But that's why we are part of the triple gem. Once you get into the deepening of this practice, the triple gem is paying homage and respect to the three triple gem, which is the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, and the monastic order, which is us. We are the living teachings of the Buddha. And though, yeah, there is some monks out there that is quite unruly. I can't speak for them, and I can't really call them out all day, every day. I can only lead by and through my own example. And every day I meditate, and every how I carry myself inspires others. I mean, some people don't even know my background, don't even know who I am. When I did the TikTok thing, they gauged based on measurements of relative relational intelligence, emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, social intelligence, to see if this guy is in fact authentic. You know, if he did in fact sat for so long, or did he just read a bunch of books and just grab TikTok and now it's BSing people. you know, and I have challenged everyone, uh, globally. I said, first of all, look at the morality and ethics. Then look at the practice. Then look at the results of the practice. Then look at the quality of the teachings. And these are how you start measuring the teacher. Any teachers. It's no different than me calling myself, yeah, I am a senior supervisory therapist. Connection poor. Can you see me now?
I can see you.
Right. So if I claim to you that I am a supervisory therapist, you would start screening for, don't just trust but verify. You would ask, well, where'd you go to school? When did you graduate? Who did you supervise with? And what have what are your specialties, and so on and so on. So that's how you kind of measure.
I think really similarly, this is a part of the process of unlearning that a student has to go through when not just working with you, but in this specific situation, me beginning to work with you, there's a lot of unlearning and stripping away of bad habits and recognizing, bringing to light things that have not been helpful, that have gotten me to this place. And that comes along with questions and some challenging, of new ideas that are presented.
Likewise, these things have been around for decades. You just haven't been looking at the right spot. Furthermore, furthermore, don't take this the wrong way because I tell this to everybody. Furthermore, one must ask oneself whether one has played a little too long and a little too much. That typically tighten people up, you know. And likewise, now that I am tightening up all of these toxic parents who are toxic to their children, I'm the one who's guiding their children towards peace. And I said, and some of these guys got master's degree all day, every day, and I really cracked the whip. You, in a very psychological sense, I really cracked the whip, and I look at all of them in front of me, and I said, all of you in this room played a little too long, a little too much, don't you think? Because these teachings have been around for 2,566 years ago. And you're going to tell me you didn't know the Buddha existed? Yes or no? Have you seen the image of the Buddha? Yes or no? And nothing prompted you the curiosity of investigating who he was, why he's so happy, and why he's so peaceful when we look at his image. You know what I mean? I started like hammering them down. I'm like, have you ever seen a monk before? Have you ever seen one of us before running around in orange and spice colors with shaved head and so on? You never prompted you to Google what do monks do. So when I hammer these down on these parents, they're like, huh? And then I hit really deep, and I'm like, yeah, seems like you've been picking up your margarita a little too long there, Karen. And then they all started giggling and laughing, but I'm touching their heart. I'm literally touching their heart and pulling their heart out to examine closely what we've been doing for the past 40 years that leads to this toxicity in the family unit. Again, it's part of the reality therapy thing that I told you about. So, yes.
The reality is most people will not be born to enlightened individuals. That's the reality.
Right.
I mean, look at you. You're most likely never going to have a child. Already evidence that most of us will be born to parents who are not spiritually aware or prepared to guide a child how to deal with navigating life, navigating emotions, navigating loss.
Well, the point of the previous couple sentence that I just said is designed to shake them up about playing a little too long and playing a little too hard, because again, this is a first world country where it's all about me. What makes me oh God, what makes me happy? I teach. You should see me in the ER when I teach. There are 2018, 2019, 2020, all 3 years I was in the ER like 50 times with IVs in me, and I still teach. I get all this stuff out, and I was like, and the teachings of the Buddha is, and I was like, champion teacher. I tell you that no monk ever teaches the way I do. I'm a blameless monk, as blameless as it's ever gonna get. Anyways, but the point is to emphasize to folks in the West that look, I think it's time to just wake up and realize what needs to be done this point forward. But I want them to realize that they've been playing a little too long. You know what I mean? It's just like even parents that have lost their children, they still continue to party and not return back to themselves and not look for spirituality. As soon as their children die, they pick up the booze and resort to drugs. Is just the quick fix, Yeah. So after what I have said, that you're evidence based up here, what does that tell you now about your standpoint on mindfulness and its practice?
Take the medicine, damn it. No, I mean, I think what you described before is you are not prescribing new practices, new ideas. These are ideas that have existed, and there are multiple ways of getting to that place of knowing that they have existed and have, I guess, worked for a long time. And that mindfulness requires consistency in order for you to, I guess, truly believe it. It has to be in practice. It can't just stay like in theory, in reading. It has to be something that you feel to know.
Let's say the Buddha doesn't exist. Let's say we made it up. Let's say we made it up. Let's say we made the whole thing up. All right. And let me tell you, it's my job to prove the Buddha wrong. That's all of our job. He invited that. That was an open invitation. In the Kalama Sutta, whatever you want to say it, however you want to say it. Kalama, Kalama, was that, he said, yeah, whatever I'm telling you, you're supposed to test it. You're not supposed to take it based on blind faith.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, even if all this was all made up, you can see that it has clinical applications. You can see benefits in it. You just human benefits in it. That the first thing, it was in order. It was in chronological order for us to follow in order to see the results, which is the first thing before we give me 1 second real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks, this is not the time to write these type of comments on my Instagram why Buddhism is stuff that's going on in other countries. This is not the time for that. And if you want me to make a talk on that, send it through my DM. Okay. And this is why Stephen Boss took his life, because of most of these comments that is worldwide. Just in his 24-hour video before he took his life, he spoke about some of these unruly comments that is prevalent on the social media network. When we look at the threefold training, let's say the Buddha did not exist and all this we made up just for fun. Okay. We saw that before you meditate, you need to give the gift of safety. Don't cheat, don't lie, don't kill, refrain from sexual misconduct, refrain from intoxicating substance. One needs to ask, well, I've been drinking, I've been having sex with strangers, and I try to meditate, it didn't work out. And I don't know why it's not working out. Well, because you're attached and involved with human emotions, human feelings. You're attached with, stuff that is going on unethically and immorally. And it's sitting on your mind, it's sitting on the shelf. So therefore, of course, you cannot, bring the mind under control. You cannot concentrate on your breath because you're sleeping with Becky and her sister. you're cheating, you're lying, you're killing, you're stealing, whatever the case may be, and law enforcement is after you. So you're meditating with one eye open. Yeah, it's no wonder the Buddha said the first thing, the first training is to keep the morality in check. So it clears the way for us to cultivate mindfulness. If you are not messing with other people and not messing with the law, then you're pretty pure, pretty free from a lot of free from damn it, what's the word? Free from unnecessary headaches, in order to start focusing on what's on the inside, like, whoa, what's going on in here? What are my thoughts about? You know what I mean? Depression, anxiety comes up is because we got ourselves into all these drama, and now we're taking these drama with us because you did not keep the precept. You did not give the gift of safety. You did not give the gift of morality. You did not practice morality. So therefore, we created all this mess. Right? So again, if the mess came with us, if the baggage came to this, we have to undo that. We have to trace the links of influence. We have to trace the root cause of it. We have to learn to forgive ourselves the mistakes, because those mistakes were fueled by ignorance. right? And once the forgiveness, then it brings us a little bit closer to the cultivation of mindfulness. Then we look at the elements of mindfulness and we see that the first thing the Buddha wanted us to do is to calm the mind. Well, how do you do that? Focus on the breath, the in breath, the out breath. Notice it, witness it, observe it without judgment. Just seeing the small pleasure in the breath and the suffering in the breath. And there's techniques to that. When it's long breath, we note that it's long breath. When it's short, we know it's short. When we start paying close attention to the small details of the breath, we will start paying close attention to the small details of our lives. And it is exactly that makes us make more informed decisions, more wiser decisions, less mistakes, because we are aware of what we're doing in the moment without any disturbing emotions attached to it. And if there is disturbing emotions attached to whatever decision that we're making in a day, we're able to separate it objectively. We're able to see the objective and subjective part of it. Uh, does that make sense so far? Before I go any further, yeah. And then he gave us insight meditation. Once the mind is calm and it's free and clear as much as possible of depression and anxiety, of any laziness in the process, then he taught us insight, which is the four foundations of mindfulness: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of Gaia, Chit, mindfulness of the body, the mind, sensations and feelings, and worldly phenomenons. Pretty much seeing the true nature of reality. Pretty much the three foundations of mindfulness trains us to see the three marks of existence: that all things in life are impermanent, they don't last forever, that they're subject to change, and rarely are they under our control. And therefore, when the clinical application of insight meditation is extremely effective, extremely, like instant nirvana, instant mindfulness, instant enlightenment, right there and then, when you make decisions every day. Um, and that's exactly it. Every day you make decisions. The decision to get out of bed, the decisions to brush your teeth, the decision to get in a car, the decision to encounter humans, the decision to make whatever, writing a contract, executing a contract, buying a house, and so on. But it is the process in between that you are aware of what is unfolding. And of course, when you look at how lawyers do their job and judges do their job, you see that if the defendant is not all there, they will bring it back all there. They're going to be like, hello, how are you? This is what you're being charged with, and this is what's happening today. And you understand, by pleading not guilty, or you understand that if you do plead guilty, that you give up your right to a trial. You understand that if you plead guilty, that you can be deported if you're not a United States citizen. Have you, Mr. George, have you had ample time to consult with an immigration attorney? Like, the design of the questions is made for the individual to be aware of what's happening, what is unfolding, and giving that individual as much time before they enter a plea, right? So same thing with the police officers. Like, within the decision making process, they read the Miranda rights and they're like, do you understand these rights before we proceed any further? So our practice reinforces everyday decision making, how clearly, with clarity, that we can discern, with intelligence. Yeah. Even if the Buddha wasn't real, even if the teachings was made up, it still has direct clinical application for anyone to replicate, to test over and over again. And I would bet everything I got on it. I bet my own citizenship on it all day, every day, that it is the most comprehensive and effective educational system the world has ever seen in regards to the application of life, relationships in life, human and human suffering. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to play devil's advocate. You always have to pretend like, what if somebody did in fact make this up? And furthermore, the end goal is nirvana. And that's like, everyone's like, what is nirvana? What is enlightenment? And again, it's like woo, way down the road there of the teachings, but there's two definitions to enlightenment, which is also nirvana, interchangeable vocabulary. The religious aspect, philosophical aspect of it is when you have given up greed, anger, and no longer ignorant of the Four Noble Truth, you would achieve enlightenment. The second definition is if you are present in the moment, uh, clearly know what you're doing in the moment. Let's say you're washing the dishes and you're clearly really enjoying scrubbing this steak off this dish on the right corner, quarter inch. You're really having a kick out of vacuuming the house in that activity. That right there is actually your enlightenment. It is a moment of enlightenment to experience. We also call that the flow when playing sports and so on. And quite frankly, uh, at the moment of death, if you're able to let all those three things go, you achieve enlightenment. And who cares if it is actually real? It sounds real good to me. Who cares if I become a Buddhist saint or not become a saint? But the fact that letting everything go at the moment of death sounds really peaceful all by itself. Yeah, that's all. You're free to talk now.
I'm just a really good listener. So I'm trying to literally absorb as much as I can. And I know that I'll watch this later and take notes because there will be things that I don't remember. But I know that I will have to get going soon. And I think if there's a piece to, I don't know, bring it back together, or if there's more direction that you have for me specifically, I'm continuing to try to do more of the CBT book at a faster pace and, still bring in pieces of my life that feel relevant to what I'm trying to practice. Um, Coming back to like the test, like what is the biggest thing that's causing me stress / suffering at this time? As small as it may seem, as first world as it may seem, it is my reality right now, and hoping that I can continue to bring that without feeling shame.
It is. It is. It is your reality right now, and I don't object to it. It's your pursuit, and it is what you want to attain, and is what will bring you happiness once you have attained it, and will be something off the checklist. It's good to have these type of ambitions at a young age, to have it underneath your belt, to open doors for you, the opportunity, the existence of the opportunity will bring you joy and happiness. That's why you're doing it, just to have it there, the credentialing process and the just everything. So I know you have to get going, and the last recommendations for this session for you to carry throughout the week is to just go 2 to 3 chapters. You're kind of racing with Steven, my assistant, that you've seen. He's all the way up to chapter 10 or something like that. I really had to tighten him up. um, don't take the test too seriously. Don't take a lot of things too seriously. Live simply. Always figure out how to live simply than complications. You got this far. As you get older, you get happier because you've learned more skills and coping mechanisms versus your younger days. You need not to attach on to the younger days of how you see things, your views of your younger days, the expectations of the younger days. Do everything that you were trained to do, and the constant reminder on psychologytoday.com of woulda, coulda, shoulda, shoulda, and the price of expectation and how expectation destroys your happiness. And the price of expectation and how expectation destroys your happiness. I think by undoing the knot, by untangling the tangle, you should go back to the basics of the study of happiness, which is positive psychology, and have these constant reminder that I just said over and over again, so that you can uncomplicate your mechanics up there in the mind, you know, the type A personality. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's don't. But at this time in your life, the more things we can relax, the more you can prioritize the tests, rightfully so. Because preoccupation with other things that you have aforementioned takes up a lot of bandwidth in your mind, bandwidth that is causing you exhaustion. Um, so, again, just recalibrate, rejuvenate, recalibrate, revitalize the positive side of things. Optimism, study optimism, study all of these things that is will help you undo all of these downloads that you've been doing to yourself all these years. Start uninstalling some of these things that are not helpful at this time. You can reinstall them later when you go into the practice, because that's where you will need it the most. The ability to pay attention to small details and high expectations, to be the best therapist the world has ever seen, the best therapist California has ever seen. But for now is woosah for a second. Okay. So I hope that you will reflect on our talk. And this is why I want to record this talk and every other talk with everybody so that they can go back to it, because every word expounded here today is gold and diamond, platinum and diamond, D color, flawless diamonds. Always. Exactly. Literally diamonds coming out of my mouth for you and for all to reflect on, because if you live by these words, you will in fact achieve peace. So, yeah, I have no doubt you will excel faster than most people. And it takes a lot of acceptance after upon deep reflection. And that's how you will grow fast and quick in this process. That's it.
I hope you feel better soon. Thank you for still being open to chatting, even though I know you're not feeling well.
Champion monk. I have to set the standard high for the younger generation of monks, so they don't lag around playing with their iPad. I don't feel good today. What? I think I just heard the word I. Do we not practice the non-self? Me, my, and I. So it sets the stage for the younger monks to get up, get out, and serve the people, and do not focus on their own suffering, but yet focus on the sufferings of others, and that's how we will get better, physically and mentally, always. Well, young lady, you keep up the good work and continue reading more articles to reinforce your beliefs in mindfulness, if that's what you will crave throughout the week. But hopefully I've given you enough to satisfy your hunger for knowledge.
For now.
For now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye bye. Okay. Wow. A lot of people on TikTok joining. And blessed are those who've joined lately, like literally just now, is because most of them couldn't sustain their attention in the first half an hour, so they missed out all of this good stuff that you all got to catch. Therefore, when you see a monk appear on your screen, pay close attention, because one sentence can in fact lead you to full enlightenment, full sustained enlightenment in this lifetime, even from a novice monk, even from a part-time monk. So make no mistake, when the power of the robes appear in front of you, deep listening, you must activate. And as a result of this, you can literally become fully enlightened and no longer suffer mentally throughout the remaining balance of your natural living life. So I think that now that I have all this going on here, let me deactivate every social media except TikTok and reactivate all of my social media in regarding the talk about the late Stephen Twitch boss. So let me do that. So damn it, hold on. Let me reflect to see if I can gauge my physical abilities to do that. Talking on suicide, seem to make sure I'm on point. Because I'm dealing with this bronchitis thing, so I don't want it to like give a talk and then like pause. Sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're gonna commence. We're gonna commence to talk.